I think as parents, sometimes it's so easy to complicate communication and to complicate situations in which we find ourselves where we're not really agreeing with our child. We want them to see things the way that we're seeing them, and they're not doing it. Let me share with you a tool. I love simple tools that can be used in a variety of situations and that just take a little bit of practice. And this is one of those tools. It's literally just implementing one phrase into your little mind and maybe even saying it out loud, just 3 words, and seeing the power that it has. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Let's say that you have a child who comes home from school one day and says, I'm so excited, Johnny invited me over, he's got a new video game, can I go? I just want to go, can you give me a ride? Can I go over to Johnny's house? And you're like, oh, dang, unfortunately, you've got some housework to do that you didn't get done. You're not doing your chores. The garbages need to go out and you didn't do that. And you were supposed to feed the dog today and you didn't do that. And you have to walk the dog. And also I looked at your grades and you're missing an assignment. And then your child just erupts and says, what? I never get to go to Johnny's house. Can't I just, one time you just say yes, you always want to say no, right? And there's this pushback and then you feel the emotions rise and they're like, look, buddy, it's not that I want to say no, it's that I have to say no because you're not keeping your end of the deal, right? And it just, pretty soon, it's kind of like a yelling match. Nobody's really listening to the other party. And there's definitely a lack of connection and of communication that actually gets you somewhere. So what can you do? Can it be so simple that just 3 little words can help? I'm telling you the answer is yes. And this is what you do. You can pause for just a moment. Those pauses make all the difference. And then you can say this, that makes sense. Like it makes sense that you want to go to Jimmy's house. It makes sense that you want to go try out that new video game. It makes sense that you might feel like I say no a lot. It makes sense that you don't want to walk the dog right now or take out the garbages because when I get home from school, I didn't like to do chores either, right? When you just are willing to say to yourself, you know what? The way my child is reacting, the words coming out of their mouth, the tone of voice, the body language, the pushback, it actually makes sense. Because guess what? It almost always does. Our kids are not these crazy human beings who are out to get us, right? They are reacting from very normal emotions for whatever stage of life they are in. And I don't know very many tweens or teens who want to come home and do jobs and take out the trash and walk the dog and work on homework when they could be with their friends playing video games, right? So it makes sense. It makes sense they don't want to. Now that doesn't let them completely off the hook, but what it does that's really powerful is it diffuses the emotion. My emotion first, right? It diffuses my emotion rather than me being super frustrated and upset with my child for not just saying, oh, yeah, mom, okay, let me get right to that. I mean, really, is that what we expect? It's like we as moms kind of freak out when our kids don't immediately hop to it and be like, oh, I didn't do my jobs and I've got a missing assignment. Well, of course, let me sit down and get right to that. It's like we expect that and we know, that isn't to be expected, right? Because our child is dealing with very age-typical emotions and trying to understand them himself, right? And so when I allow myself to be like, you know what, it makes sense that he might feel that way. It makes sense that he would push back. It makes sense that he'd be disappointed when I tell him he has to stay and do homework rather than go to his friend's house. Like all of that makes sense. Pretty soon in my mind, I've done something really valuable. I've switched from being frustrated and judgmental to being compassionate. It's like I'm leaning toward empathy because I'm starting to allow space in my mind and heart for him to feel the way that he feels, understanding why he might feel that way, right? And that's a really powerful thing to do because you show up differently when you're leaning towards empathy and compassion than when you're reacting out of frustration, right? You show up completely differently. So the first thing it does is it diffuses your emotions. And then think about if you were that child and you're going off and you start spouting out all the reasons this isn't fair and on, and then your mom says, you know what, it makes complete sense that you would feel that way. Yeah, I totally get it. It makes sense. It's like, it does? Is she hearing me? Is she actually on my team Are we working through this together? Is she validating my feelings? They won't say those terms in their mind, right? But that's what's kind of going on inside of their subconscious mind, is like, what's just happened here? I feel like my mom just kind of switched over to my side. She's saying that my feelings make sense. And isn't that an amazing thing to do when you can validate your kids' feelings, even their negative emotions? They can be validated, and there's so much power in that, because they do deserve to feel negative emotion just as much as they deserve to feel positive emotion. They deserve to choose their feelings. They deserve to be able to allow their feelings, whether they're what we would consider the right feeling or a good feeling or a bad feeling or whatever it is, right? That's how they learn the kind of how to create the emotion they really want in their lives. So we say, you know what, it makes sense. That makes sense. It makes sense that you would feel that way and that you would react that way. Our emotional temperature just went down. We're leaning toward compassion and understanding. His emotional temperature just went down. How much more can you accomplish when you're both calm rather than trying to like one-up each other in an argument, right? And the other thing that's really amazing is at that point, you can decide what to do. Oftentimes, as moms, we have to hold our ground. We have to say, it makes sense you'd feel that way and you'd be disappointed. I totally get it. But unfortunately, this is the rules that we have in our house. This is what we have in place so that you can continue to learn to be responsible and take care of the things that matter and be a contributing citizen in our home. And you might have to say that, or you might have times where you just feel this nudge to be like, that makes sense. Let's talk about it. What do you think would be a good solution? I love to use that phrase too. What do you think would be a good solution to your kids? And if they say, I don't know, just be like, okay, well then I guess we'll stick with mine. And if they say, well, maybe I could go to Jimmy's for 2 hours and then I could come home and do my chores or whatever, and you can work through it and you can decide what to do from there, right? It's not like you're giving in. It's not like you're condoning poor behavior. It's just that you're saying, look, I get why you feel the way you do. I get why you are reacting the way that you react. We had numerous scenarios like this arise in our home over the past couple of weeks as this has been on my mind. It's been pretty extraordinary. And I found at times myself being frustrated, or I'd watched my husband kind of a little bit from afar. It's always easier to see things when you're not emotionally involved. And he was so frustrated, and he would be like, our kids are just like this particular child, she's so entitled or spoiled, or this kid always likes to argue, and like all of the things, right? I see this, and he starts to say these things out loud. And I say, honey, but think about it. Doesn't it make sense? Doesn't it make sense that our child would respond that way in this scenario when you really think about it? Doesn't it make sense that they might be worried about this, or they might not want to do that? Like, it makes sense. And when you realize, oh, they're just being a human being right now. They're doing something that makes complete sense for their stage of life. Suddenly, all of that negative emotion takes a little bit of a breath. And then you can think more clearly and be like, what do we want to do about it? How do we want to handle it? And if you have kids that are old enough, I love the idea of asking them, what do you think we should do about this? It doesn't mean you have to take their advice. Oftentimes you can compromise. Sometimes you hold the line. Either way, now you're at a place where the two of you can actually communicate. Your child feels seen and heard. Their feelings have been validated. They understand that it's okay to feel that way. In fact, it even makes sense to feel that way. And then you decide where to go from there. Can you see how simple that is, but how powerful it is? Let's say you are at a park with your little ones, and it's a beautiful day. You haven't been to the park in a while. Your little 3-year-old is just playing his heart out and having so much fun, but you realize it's lunchtime and nap time for the baby. So you say to your 3-year-old, hey buddy, time to go. What is likely to happen? It would be great if you just bounded right over and said, thank you so much for taking me to the park today, Mom. I think that rarely happens though. Not because we don't have amazing, kind, wonderful, grateful kids, but the natural reaction is to be like, what? I'm pretty sure my mom is about to pull the pleasure rug right out from underneath me. And this fun that I'm having is going to come to an abrupt end. And I don't like that, right? Because our brains don't like that. They want that pleasure. And your 3-year-old doesn't even have the communication skills to articulate what is going on. He just knows, no, I don't want the fun to end. So we might throw a fit or run or say no, or say you're a mean mom or whatever it might be. And that's so frustrating as a mom. You're like, what's wrong with my child? This behavior is so horrible. But when you take that pause and you simply say, it makes sense that you want to stay. I totally get why you want to stay. It takes so much of the emotion out. Suddenly your child feels a little bit heard. They're like, wait a minute, did she just agree with me? You've allowed yourself to have space for some empathy and compassion and understanding, which is so different from like frustration, just get over here and let's go. And then you can decide what to do from there. You might, again, hold the line and be like, but buddy, we have to go right now. Or you might be able to compromise. How about this? What if we go in 5 minutes? Now, 5 minutes is very short. So when I say it's time to go, at the end of 5 minutes, that's when there won't be a fit anymore, right? I know you don't want to go and it makes sense, but we still have to go. Sometimes we have to do it anyway, right? Whatever you want to do, you can manage it from there. So I think that this can be a powerful tool for us as moms. We can use it obviously not only in the relationships that we have with our children, but in our relationships with our partners, with our spouses, right? Imagine you're in an argument with your spouse, and it feels like a lot of times when we're in those kinds of conversations that it's just like, this person really wants to be heard. And then this person is like, I better talk louder and harder so that my point is heard. And then this person just tries, right? Like it's like you're trying to one up each other. It happens so easily. But what if all of a sudden you paused, even right at the beginning, and you thought about your spouse's point of view, and then you were like, you know what, I don't feel the same way as my spouse. I still like where I'm coming from, but it makes sense that he might feel that way, or that he might think that. Like that makes sense. If I was him, I might do the exact same thing. And when you do that, suddenly you're again approaching a conversation or a problem or a situation. You're approaching it with this space for understanding the other person. And it completely changes the entire conversation, right? Because it's not anymore like I'm trying to beat my partner. It's like, look, I actually get where he's coming from. So what do we want to do about it? Like, I understand why he feels that way. I understand why he's saying that. I understand why that's what he wants to do. I still don't necessarily agree. How can we come to a decision here between the two of us? It is so powerful. It is such a powerful thing. I think the things that it does that matter the most are 3 things. 1, it diffuses the negative emotion pretty quickly and helps us lean toward compassion. That's always a good thing. Number 2, it helps the other person, they feel validated in the way that they feel, or the thing that they think, or the thing that they want or don't want to do. They feel like there's some understanding there, and they feel validated that it's okay that their perspective is different from ours. And that's powerful, because suddenly you feel like you're on the same team. And third, it opens up the opportunity to decide what to do about the situation next. How are you going to work together to come up with the best possible solution, or a possible solution that you're going to try, right? And so it can be so powerful. So regardless of the age of your kids, whether they're 2 years old, or they're 10 years old, or they're 17 years old, whether it's a relationship at work with a coworker or a boss, or it's a relationship with your spouse or a sister or a mother-in-law or whoever it might be, this little tool can be incredibly powerful. Just try it. That makes sense. Now you have to be conscious of what is going on. That's the first step. You have to understand, ooh, I feel myself kind of getting out of control here. I see the pushback. I see the behavior I don't like. Let me take a breath. Let me think really quickly. And this happens so fast. Can I put myself in that person's shoes for just a minute? Can I understand where they might be coming from? And then you can say, you know what? It makes sense. That makes sense you'd feel that way. I get why you're saying that. And then you go from there. Try it. Let me know how it goes. I would love for you to write back and be like, I tried it and this is what happened. Good or bad, I want to know. And remember that as with all tools, they take practice. It takes that consciousness of what's going on. Then it takes that pause and that deep breath before you respond. And then it takes practice. Practicing, you know what, that makes sense. Yeah, I get why you're saying that. I get why you're thinking that way. Now, how do we handle it? Because this is the way I'm thinking of it. Does that make sense to you? Or what do we want to do from here? Okay? All right. That makes sense. Your next tool. You got this.